So there's actually. Oh, thank you, Peretz. I forgot. Okay, so starting in the Mishna again. So maybe in Eitzim and Asada, you can bring wood from the field. When I'm mechunas, if the wood is piled up, and when a karfef, and you bring it from the karfef is even less, right? It's more, meaning it's less of an issue. It's considered more watched than a field. So then I feel when I'm a fuzzer there, even if the wood is spread out all over the yard, that you're still allowed to gather it. Now the pshat is, right, is because it has to do with muktza, like all the other mishnayos. You're taking wood that's muktza, right? But there's other rishonim that learn it has to do with ma'amar, which is gathering. Right? Okay. Hello. Can you shut the door, please?
What about uvda dechol doesn't play a part here? Uvda dechol?
Uvda dechol? No, this is even worse than uvda dechol.
It was like $10.
Right? This is worse than this is actual malach. Right? This is actual malach. Yeah. So anyway, so again, a sada is worse than a karfef. So a sada has to be piled up. In a karfef, it only has to be. It could be spread out. Ezu karfef. Hello. That's Peretz Nachas over there. Peretz Nachas, wherever he is. Yeah. So ezu karfef. Right. So what's considered a karfef? Kosher samach li'ir. Anything that's close to the city is considered a karfef. Meaning it has to be. It's interesting, Rashi. Right? Maybe you could say Rashi. Where's Gershon is on yet? No, huh? When Rashi says samach li'ir mamish. Right? You could say that Rashi was a Chabad, right? A Lubavitcher. Lubavitcher, will you say mamish? It has to be mamish? No, yeah, I think so. Nobody, I don't know. All right, anyways.
Yeah.
So Rashi is, it has to be close to the city. Rabbi yosi what do you say?
The Rebbe's name was Mamish. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Menachem Mendel Schneerson, if that's so Rashi is saying it has to be mamish close to the city. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi yosi, says that the karfef is, as long as you need a key to get into it, then as long as it's in the techum, can't be added to techum, obviously, because once it's added to techum, then you how are you taking the wood in from outside? Yeah, fine. Okay. So
why would the Rabbanan be chaylik on that part? If you made a techum, wouldn't that show that you have das for this karfef?
No, I'm talking about it's in the techum.
Right. I'm saying why would the Rabbanan, the Tanakh, Rabbi Yehuda, I mean,
that's not close enough to the city. It's tam in the techum. It's not. You didn't make it in the techum.
Let's say you made a techum. Well, if you don't have a techum, how do you walk there?
No.
You obviously made a techum.
The karfef. No. The karfef has to be within the techum of the city.
Techum is not 2,000 amos?
It is
within the 2,000.
Meaning he's as opposed to being karfef, right?
Got it.
Oh, that's
I thought it meant a personal techum. I didn't realize it was talking about techum stam.
No. It means stam. No, you mean it's regular. Whether it should be his techum. No, it's stam techum. Yeah. Okay, so something more. That's much stricter. He says you're not allowed to bring wood only from a karfef, not meaning no soda. Yes, karfef, but it has to be piled up in the karfef. You can bring it from a karfef even if it's spread out. So why is Rabbi Yehuda Mashmul, who's an Amoira, saying that you could only bring it from a pile in a karfef? So the Gemara says, our Mishna is a das yochid. The Tanya, Amud of Shimon Elazar, there's no machlokes between Bisham and Hillel that things that are spread out in the field, wood that's spread in the field, that you can't bring it. And if it's piled up in a karfef, that you could bring it. On the ones that are spread out that are in the karfef. And the ones that are piled up in the fields, meaning you have one advantage from each. Shamai says you don't bring it. Beis says you can bring it. Right, so that's the machlokes. So, but our Mishnah is a das yochid that doesn't go with this. Yeah, fine. So, Omar Rava, alei kenim, leaves of reeds, yeah, and va'alei kfanim, and reeds of grapevines. Avagav de mechan filahu u'maisvu. Even though you gather them together and you put them on, you gather them up. Even the imadli zeka, since if the wind comes and blows it, mevadalu, then it'll meaning these things are light, right? Straw, branches, leaves, they're all light. So that if the wind, since the wind can come and blow them away, they're considered like spread out, which is quite interesting. Now, what happens if the wind didn't blow it? First of all, it's interesting because what do you mean? I made it not muktza. What's the difference if the wind went and blew it again? So I still made it. I said I had in my head I was going to use it. The Gemara is saying that it doesn't work. That doesn't work because it got spread out. Now, what happens if it didn't get spread out? Is it a problem? So Rashi says yes. Yeah, because since it's that there's a chashash that it's going to get spread out, so therefore you don't have your das in it anymore. And since you don't have a das in it anymore, it's still going to be muktza. And if you put a utensil down on top of these leaves from before Yom Tif, then shaper dummy, then that's good because you're obviously showing that you do have your das on it. And then
that's out in a field or even in an enclosure? It doesn't specify either way.
You're right. I didn't think about that. It's a good question. Is that both or only? Well, the chayr it's both because if you miyachid it, see the field in the enclosure is just whether it was piled up or loose. Here you clearly here he dafka.
Well, here's enough. I guess enough kamina is if it's inside, the wind may not blow it around, and if it blows it around, it's not disappearing. It's gonna just blow around within the enclosure. The other nafkamina is if you have piles of wood that are outside stacked up and you have a very strong wind, it can blow the wood around.
So you want to be mechalik between different types of winds?
I don't know. I'm saying indoor outdoor is probably more of a difference than regular wind or strong wind.
Right. No, I hear. Maybe. It doesn't say. That's a good order. Thank you. Okay, so let's divide. This is a karfef. What's a karfef? Yeah, so what Gemara answers, a karfef is if you have to have a key and it could be within the techum then, right? See, boy, they had a shaila. Hey, what does the Mishna mean? Yeah, kol shasamach le'ir doesn't mean that if it's as long as it's close to the city for who de islay pesachas, but it also has to have a key, right? Meaning a lock. It has to have two things. It has to be close to the city and a lock. Since it has a key, afilu b'soich techum Shabbos nami, then even if it's within the techum Shabbos, then it's going to be okay. This is the way it's saying. If it's close to the city, if it's close to the city, it does not have to be under lock. Even if it's tight to techum Shabbos, but only if it has a lock. If it doesn't have a key or a lock, then even close to the city also not. Right? Meaning, do they both studim, both sheetas hold that you need to have a lock or not? Or is it just the city that's the proximity to the city? So whoever comes, you put the wood in there with a lock. Even within the techum Shabbos, so you hear from this that it has to be only has to be locked if it's further away from the city. If it's close to the city, it doesn't have to be locked. So and I'm sorry, I stopped too early. Shmamino Rav Yosi tardi lekula. Rav Yosi saying two things: lekula, shmamino. So that's what it is. Amar Rav Salo, Amar Rav Yirmi, halacha Rav Yosi lahakol. The halacha is like Rav Yosi, right? With the more make way of looking at it, which is that you need one or the other. If it's close to the city, you don't need to be locked. If it's further away from the city, then it's okay, but then it should be locked. But it's the easier of the more makel of the two. Okay, so Zok the Mishna. So you're not allowed to take wood. You're not allowed to chop wood from wood beams on on Yom Tif, and you can't take it from a kaira that got broken on Yom Tif. But if the kaira got broken before Yom Tif, then your das is on it, then you're allowed to, right? A beam falls down from the house. So if it fell down on Yom Tif, you didn't have das to use that, so you're not allowed to use it. If it fell down before Yom Tif, then you're allowed to use it. And you're not allowed to cut wood. You can't use an axe, you can't use a saw. No, a magal is a sickle. The only thing you could use is a karfef, some sort of meat thing that you cut meat with, right? And why again? Why is this? It's because of it shouldn't look like you're doing malacha, right? You shouldn't look like you're doing malacha. Yeah. So again, no cutting. You're only allowed to cut from stuff that's prepared, and you only can cut with a karfef, and that's it. The Beis. So the Gemara says the Reisha says that you're not allowed to. First, the Reisha says you're not allowed to cut wood at all. So then what do you go finish saying? How are you supposed to cut wood? You said you're not allowed to cut wood. So it is something obviously missing from the Mishna. You're not allowed to break. You're not allowed to cut wood from a pile of beams, right? Because that's meant, the pile of beams are there to be used, not to be used as firewood. And you can't take it from a piece of wood, a beam that broke on Yom Tif. But if it broke on Erev Yom Tif, it's allowed. And when you are allowed to cut them, you can't cut with the axe, saw, or sickle, only with a meat, what do you call it? A cleaver. Not from a pile of beams, and not from a beam that gets broken, because it's not considered prepared. You didn't have a yirdas on it, so a mela is not considered prepared.
What's
What are
the
you saying?
difference? I mean, what a carpenter looks like he works hard, and then a butcher, what? That's how a butcher cuts meat all the time with a cleaver. So he's working. So if I use a cleaver in my house, it doesn't look like I'm working. But if I use a carpenter's tool, it looks like I'm working to cut meat. Well,
I think it's just about doing it with a shinu, no?
I don't know.
That's the way I understand it.
That's not what Rashi says. Rashi says it's not considered a kliyum, and I guess Lagabi cutting wood. I don't know.
Right, but what's wrong with a kliyum? What's wrong? But what's wrong with a
because
kliyum?
that looks like you're doing work. It's like almost like a
Right.
flow.
Right. Exactly. So and a cleaver doesn't look like that because it's meant to cut meat, not to cut wood.
Right, but I don't know if it's because of sheener or something. It doesn't look like you're doing work.
I don't mean a shinu like back of the hands. I meant just doing it different on Yom Tif than during the week, which again, like we said in yesterday's daf, it comes out that we end up working a lot harder on Yom Tif.
Yeah, that we said.
You end up working a lot harder on Yom Tif because you end up working a lot harder on Yom Tif because you have to do the shine, but that's what the chacham were masakin, so that's what they were masakin.
Okay.
Not much. I mean, they obviously had this big chashivas that Yom Tov should not look like the weekday, right? Yeah. I mean, you just imagine everybody that makes the barbecues. No offense to all those barbecue makers, barbecuers on Yom Tov over here. You can imagine. Avikan is coming after me. No, you can imagine that some barbecues, if you wouldn't have to do the shinuyim, sometimes you can forget that it's Yom Tov. That's all. I also will eat from a barbecue. I don't have a problem with it. Sometimes the way we eat and drink on Yom, that's why we have Bahab coming up next week, right? They were worried about how we behave on Yom Tov. So it seems like there was a big concern to keep Yom Tov on the up and up, to say that. No? Anyways, okay. So you can't use a axe. They're very interesting thing. I didn't understand this at all, but it's all, you can't use it with the female part of it. But with the zachar part of it, then it's mutter. Now, what does it mean? The nekeva shabbat? So Rashi means it says the wider end. I guess it looks sort of like the one end was wider and one end was thinner. So the wider part is the woman, is the nekeva, and the thinner part is the zachar. Okay. So
If you
Gemara
go,
says, okay, yeah.
excuse me, if you go on, one of the fellows went online this morning and he found all these different types of specialty knives that had two different blades, on one blade on one side, blade on the length, with one on the width, one on the top, one on the bottom, and all different kinds of things. That we're not used to. Yeah, different kinds of specialty knives. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, but I don't know why it's called female and male. All right, I mean, we had that by pieces of wood, right? Like, so that you understand. One goes into the other, so that's one is male, one's female. Here, that's not what it is. Okay, so the wider one is female, the thinner one is male. So the Gemara says, "Pshita b'kayf." It's not. It's pashut. It says you have to do it with a kayf. It's not with a kardam. So what do you say? So Gemara says, "No, the same mahani mean the kayf. It's l'chudei. That's only if it's the karfef by itself, meaning the cleaver by itself, and then it doesn't have any other parts to it. Avocardum the karfef, but let's say you have a Swiss Army, I guess it's like a Swiss Army knife where it has both, right? Ema migu the high gisa also high gisa nami also. So I'd say maybe if this end is also, so this end is also kamash malan. No, that it's mutter. You're allowed to use the actual, as long as you use the right end, you're allowed to use both. Speak the masala sefer. Some learn that the opposite is going in the sefer. Ela b'koifetz. It's only, you're only allowed to use a koifetz. It's only on the male part. On the female part, it's also pshita v'loy b'kardam tanan. It says not with a kardam. Some others say mahani mili kardam. You would think it's only with when it's a kardam by itself. That's when it's not allowed. It's a kardam. So you would think, but if it's connected to a hammer that's good that you're allowed to use, so just like the one is allowed to be used, so the other one not allowed to, is the wide part that normally can't be used, meaning the kardam can be used because it's going to be mutter because of the zachar, the kaifetz kamash malan, that it's not mutter. You don't meaning you go with the part that's mutter, even if you have a two-ended hammer and one part is you're allowed to use, the other part you're not allowed to use. You're allowed to use it as long as you use the part that's mutter to use, and that's it.
What about it? Doesn't look like over the chal?
If you're using the one that makes it look like not over the chal, then it's fine.
Well, wait a minute. But how do I know from a distance who's what?
So that's the question: is over the chal?
Don't make it into a Marisayan, Zev. Come on.
Yeah, very. I have to agree. with you, Shver. It's not a Marasayan issue. It's for yourself. This is for yourself. That you yourself should feel like it's Yom Tov, so it's different. Right? That's what it is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's a shot. You heard otherwise?
No.
No, there. Fine. Yeah. So let's see. Zok the Mishna. If you have a house full of fruit, and it broke, it fell. Rashi points out, it collapsed, like the house collapsed. So you're allowed to take fruit from the place that it fell through. The chayr it's muktza. All right. So we'll have to see in the Gemara exactly why. Because we didn't plan, it was locked in a house. Did you plan on taking from it or not? Right? He takes the other end. He says, not only are you allowed to take it if the wall fell in, you're even allowed to break the wall. Yeah. So it's like the Gemara, why are you allowed to break the wall according to the Meir? You're doing stira, right? In one of the Avos Malachas. It's talking about where the bricks were just lined up. There was no cement. So it was very makeshift. So therefore, you almost expected it's not going to be considered a building that you knocked it down. Aini, it's not true. These bricks that are left over from a building, yeah. So you're allowed to carry it on Shabbos. Meaning, if you go to a work site and you see a bunch of bricks laying around, you're allowed to move it because sometimes the workers sit on it. They use it as a chair or to lean on it. Sharginu, but if they pile them up, then for sure it's muktza. So they didn't plan on using it. Yeah, so you see that piles of bricks are muktza. So how can you say that he was allowed to knock down this thing, this wall, even though there was no cement. So Rav Zera b'Yom Tov Amru, talking about Yom Tov, Avalei b'Shabbos. You can't, and a Chanami, you can't do it on Shabbos. Right now, here we're going the opposite. Now Rameir is being more makel on Yom Tov, which obviously we are makel, but he's saying he doesn't even care. He says on Shabbos, Shabbos it's muktza, Yom Tov it's not muktza. Tani Rameir Rameir Ayman Af Peichus l'Chatchila v'Noitel b'Yom Tov Amru Avalei b'Shabbos. We only said it on Yom Tov, not on Shabbos. So Amar Shmuel Chaysama shebekarka mater. Ties that are in a. So this seems like you had ropes. Yeah, that you tie up to keep the door closed. You keep a door closed. You keep. I was envisioning more like those in we don't have it in our neighborhood, but like in Brooklyn, those grocery stores that have the access to the basement from the outside. Those metal doors, right? There's steps under them. So then you tie those. If you tie those things shut, can you untie them on Shabbos and Yom Tov? So Omar Shmuel, you're allowed to untie it. But you can't cut it, and you can't. I don't know how you say mafkia means. Rashi says you're just thinning it out. Seems like you're thinning out.
It says over here unravel.
Meaning, so what? Unravel. So what does that mean? You take like when you tzitzis unravel, like you unspit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not allowed to do that. You're allowed to untie it. Right. Now, how come why are you allowed to untie it? Isn't there an issur to untie? Right. So Rashi says it's not a kesher shekayama because you're always constantly tying it and untying it. So tying and untying is not the issue. It's getting rid of the whole rope.
That's the rabbanon, right? The rabbanon.
No, not even the rabbanon. As long as your shoes, you ever tie your shoes in a bow?
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe even in a knot, depending what type of knot. If it's constantly meant to be untied, then it's fine. Right? Yeah. Fine. So that's what it says. So again, Omar Shmuel, but in Kalim, you can untie it and you can unravel it and even cut it. Whether it's on Shabbos or on Yom Tov. So Kalim here means like a box. So today has the kasha. On Shabbos, you're allowed to untie it, but you're not allowed to unravel it. On Yom Tov, you are allowed. So you see, right, Shmuel said that you're not allowed to do it even on Yom Tov. And here the Beis says that it's only an issue on Shabbos, but Yom Tov it's mutter, which is like what Rameir said before. So Gemara answers, Hamani Rameir. No, it's going to go to Rameir. He says you could even do a l'chatchila, upligi rabbanon alei, v'anad amika rabbanon. And Rabbanon disagree with Rameir, and we go with Rabbanon. So you have a Machlokes whether we differentiate between Shabbos and Yom Tov or not. So Gemara says, "Umi pligi Rabbanon alei b'chasamas shebekarka." Do the Rabbanon disagree? Batanya moedim chacham l'Rameir, the chacham moedim l'Rameir b'chasamas shebekarka. That with these seals, with these knots that are done in the karka, shebeshabbos mater. On Shabbos you're allowed to untie it, but you can't unravel it, you can't cut it. And Yom Tov matur mafkiya v'chaytech, and on Yom Tov you're allowed to unravel it and cut it. So you see that we are mechalik. So you see even the Rabbanon agree that we're mechalik between Shabbos and Yom Tov. So one answers, "Who da'amar ki yatana detanya chasam shebekarka matur avalei mafkiya v'loi chaytech echad Shabbos v'echad Yom Tov." He says he goes with a different Tana who says that there's no difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. You're not allowed to do it. But Yom Tov matur mafkiya v'chaytech. But I'm sorry, I said no difference. On Shabbos you can't do it, but Yom Tov you are allowed to. So Gemara says Taratz l'chareisha. You only give it Taratz for the reisha. Yeah.
What's the issur?
Soiser. Destruction. That's how you say soiser, right? Destruction?
I guess so. What?
Yeah.
Taking something apart is.
What do you say?
I said taking something apart.
Making
it's not apart. It's not
deconstruction.
It's not if you don't have access to something and you give yourself access. That's mutter. You could open the door.
Oh, you're talking
to
about
your
like
house.
opening packages?
You could open the door. Not forget the packages with the Amazon stuff. No, opening the door to your house, you could do that.
Yes.
So if I have
Yeah,
my
because
bait,
that's different because that's what that's meant to be.
so you're marshal with the grocery store. So if he had a lock on it, then he could open it because it'd be same as opening in his house.
You mean, yeah, I know. No, I'm talking about the ropes that are blocking the entrance that you have to untie to get in there. That's what I thought it was talking about.
Okay, I mean, fine.
Right?
No,
That's
because
what I'm
I'm
saying.
saying my uncle had that kind of basement for his groceries. So there was a pipe across, and then had a lock on it. I mean, that's all, but it's no different than going into a house. That's all I'm saying. So,
Right.
Are you talking about a padlock?
Here or what the what I mean what the Gemara is talking about?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder. No, because a padlock is not going to be a problem. It's meant to become like that.
Yeah.
No, it's meant to go.
The problem is Rosh Hashanah, maybe. I don't know.
we're not talking about Rosh Hashanah. That you also don't bring in. What do you bring side things? We're not talking about that.
Yeah, okay, let's finish up to the Mishna and then so anyway, so Tzaratz al-Haresha, I will say for Kasha. The safe is a Kasha, right? Because the price of one price that says Shabbos is mutter, and one says it's osir, right? On money Reb Nechemia, so we say it's going to Reb Nechemia. Okay, and the main nitl nela derav tashmisha. Reb Nechemia has a different. You cannot use kalim the way they're meant to be used, and this is not meant to be used. So Reb Nechemia says, "My area Shabbos, if you Yom Tov Nami." So Reb Nechemia, if he holds you're not allowed to do it, then what's the difference? Shabbos, even Yom Tov also. Chitem Shani later Reb Nechemia means Shabbos, Shabbos, Yom Tov. Then Reb Nechemia differentiates between a Shabbos of Shabbos and a Shabbos and Yom Tov. Umi Shani lay does he? Why are we going in the car? Mi Shani lay does he differentiate? Vatani Chada Masikin Bekalim. You're allowed to burn fire. Meaning you're allowed to make a fire with kalim, doesn't mean it means broken utensils, right? I'm sorry, with not broken utensils. Vein masikin b'shivri kalim, but you're not allowed to do with broken kalim. Why? Because full kalim are not muktza because you plan on using it on a yom tov. Broken kalim are muktza because you never planned on using it for fire. That's one price. Tanya, we learned another price. Masikin bein b'kalim, bein b'shivri kalim, and there's another price. That says you are allowed to use kalim. Kalim and broken kalim, but Tani idach ein masikin loy bekalim loy b'shivur kalim. So you have three prices. One says you can use regular kalim, not broken kalim. The other one says you can use both. Another one says you can use neither. Umbashani and the Gemara answers loy kasha harab Yehuda. One is Rabbi Yehuda who holds a muktza, harab Shimon who doesn't hold a muktza, and harab Nechemia, and one is Rabbi Nechemia who hold that you're only allowed to use utensils for their intended use, not for a new use, which means that you can't take a utensil and use it to make a fire on Shabbos, right? So, but the bottom line is, Reb Nechemia says I didn't say I said Shabbos and fire on Yom Tov, right? So you see that Reb Nechemia holds of his din side by Shabbos, side by Yom Tov. So our answer is Trei Tanoim. I leave it to Reb Nechemia. There's two Tanoim, and it goes according to Reb Nechemia. So there's a Machlokes in Reb Nechemia whether you're allowed to use a utensil for its unintended use. Okay, we went a little bite so like this. If I show up Motzei Shabbos a little later, I don't have to feel guilty. All right. Good Shabbos, everybody. All right.
Mazel tov. Mazel tov. Have a good Shabbos. Mazel tov.
Shabbos, good Shabbos, Yaakov.
Shabbos, Mazel Tov.
Who's bar mitzvah?
My brother Yisrael is making his first bar mitzvah.
Mazel tov, very nice.
Mazel tov. And my brother Shalom just made an upsharing in the background. So.
Oh yeah.
We did last night.
What?
We had last night.
Oh,
well, you had Sharon? Yeah, you're looking.
You're looking good, right? You have a good upsharing there.
Yeah.
You didn't cop it.
No symptoms. Have a good Shabbos, everyone. See you tomorrow night.
All right. Yeah.
Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos, good
Have a
Shabbos.
good Shabbos. It's Yagiv. Why isn't there a problem with Baltashkis with Masikin Bekalim?
Good.
I'll touch this. If you need it, you need it.
Yeah. It's a full kli. It's used for something, not for fire.
What?
It's a kli. It's used
What'd
for
you say?
something.
I
It's a full
understand. But
kli.
you need it for wood, so you need it for wood.
That's mutter. No problem.
Yeah.
We say that with other kinds of ashkasa.
It's a very hard thing to quantify. Yeah.
I hear.
I gotta call somebody who's going to hospital. I gotta call him. All right.
All right. Have a good
There was something
Shabbos.
I wanted to tell you, Gesh. I can't remember now. All right, fine.
Uh-oh. To do with last night?
During the shear. Then you weren't before you were on.
Ah.
All right, whatever it is.
All right.
Let's go, guys. We're going.
Have a good
Oh,
Shabbos.
yes. Have a good Shabbos.